Hello everyone, and welcome to this next video in our series on the Magdalene institutions in Ireland in 20th century. And today we're concerned with Tuam. And every video that we've done, yes, everybody's telling us the same thing. The same horror stories are coming out. But each and every video is unique in one aspect. And today's video concerns the uniqueness of Anna Corrigan here. Anna, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us and for doing this interview. And Anna's story is unique in that this book is about, my name is Bridget, this book is about her mother's story. And the main message coming through from today is that, as I'm always saying, once the person leaves the institution, the trauma and the suffering does just not stop then. It goes on from generation to generation to be dealt with. And My Name is Bridget is about Anna's mother's life in the institution. And then the other thing about Anna's story that is so interesting is that when her mother passed, only then did Anna learn that she had two brothers who were born in Tuam, John and William. John has a death certificate. He's amongst the 796 babies who died in Tuam, but William has never been located, and Anna is still searching for her brother William. Before we come to how you discovered that all, if your mother didn't tell you, Anna, I want to take you through your mother's life first of all. Is that okay for you?
That's fine.
Yep. Because what happened with her mother's life has been passed down to the present generation. Let's start with your mother's life, Anna. Your mother was born September 1918 at the end of World War I. Mm-hmm. A very poor time for all families. Large families, Catholic Church, no contraception, no birth control, no abortion, no anything. Families were large, poverty was dire and very severe. And you talk in that about the poverty of your mother's family. Large family, she had there were 8 in that family. Sisters Nancy, Kit, Molly, Maggie, Julia, Attracta. Yeah. And the brothers were John and Michael. Yeah. And 8 siblings there. Large family in a tiny farm in Clonfert in County Galway. And Bridget loved her father. That's important because later on that does a turnaround, okay?
More of the intergenerational.
Yes, yep. 1924 famine, and her 2 brothers moved to England. And her home life was they had to walk a mile to get water, and they made their clothes out of flour sacks. As a lot of people did in the time. Yeah. That was what life was. And then she talks to you about Bridget herself was left-handed. Yeah. And I thought this was very, very, very sad.
Kit dog, as both my children are, and 2 of my grandchildren.
Really? Yeah. But they were known as Devil's Child. Yes. And they were beaten, hand tied behind back, and beaten and made to write with the left hand.
With the right hand.
With the right hand. Because
she got it in school. She
got it in school, yeah.
Up behind her back.
Beaten and Devil's Child. What sort of thinking produces that mindset? Anyway, that was the time too, the church, mass, if you were pregnant or unmarried, you were called out from the altar. Okay, unmarried pregnant women. And at 26 years of age, your mother became pregnant. Mm-hmm. And you still don't know who the father was, or if it was a case of rape, nobody knows that. But she was castigated from the altar by the local priest. And her father, whom she loved and who loved her, turned his back on her. So at 8 months pregnant, she was left at Chum. Isn't that right?
Yep.
After having been named on the pulpit and disgraced.
And the reason she would have stayed so long in the community was there was a policy that they left the women in the community in order to increase the shame.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, I heard that because that's part of research that I've been...
Part of their punishment.
Yeah.
Then we have the story of what life is like in Tuam. The typical overcrowding, the hunger, the cold, the bedwetting and the punishment with it, the infectious diseases, and the women called fallen women, and their children called seeds of Satan and spawn of the devil. We have all that. And we've got the public shaming, and we've got the birth, the no pain relief. We have all that in Chum as well. But the point is there were some good nuns. They weren't all like that. There were some good nuns. But it seems to be this law of obedience they were tied up into. They kept quiet. Right? Now, Bridget's son, John, was born on the 22nd of February 1946. A healthy baby, 8 pounds, black hair. But yet, Anna, an April 1947 inspection report wrote about him, and I quote here, miserable, emaciated child with a voracious appetite and no control over his bodily functions. That doesn't sound like an 8 pound healthy baby. Yeah. Have you any insight into that? What do you
No, I can't get any insight into that, despite the fact there was a doctor in situ in the home who was paid for by the county council. And all the nuns working there were trained nurses.
Yes. Because by the way, the child died in 1947, June 1947. He died,
But this was how he was related to on the inspection report.
Okay.
Because he didn't die for another 3-4 months after that. On the death cert, he actually died of measles, and they stated that he was a congenital idiot. Whatever that means. But I tried to locate the medical records, and there is no medical records. As I say, despite the fact that there was a doctor in situ, the doctor spent his time between the local clinic and the home, and he was paid for by the county council. Now, I mean, I find it amazing that my aunt had been in an industrial school in 1911 to 1918 on my father's side, and I got medical reports for her. So I find that very unusual, like the fact Molly was sick, Molly has a furrowed tongue, recommend hospitalisation, and yet, 30 years on, 40 years on, there's no paperwork whatsoever for John.
John died in June 1947, and then Bridget left in February before that in 1947. Yes. And she sent 5 shillings per week for the upkeep of John.
Yes, and she also went to work for a nun's mother from the presentation order.
Yeah.
And she looked after that nun's mother, because when my mother died, I found pieces of paper and memorial cards, and for some reason, and I knew nothing about Chum, I just put them to one side. I said I'll keep them because I couldn't keep everything belonged to her. And it turned out I have the memorial card for the nun's mother who died. Okay. And I also have a letter written by the nun to my mother, thanking her for looking after her mother and how kind she was, because she carried her mother up and down the stairs on her back every time the lady needed to go up and down the stairs. But remembering at that time that John had died in that intervening period, and the nun never once referred to the death of John in the letter. And the final sign off on the letter was, I thank you for, and God will be good to you for looking after the elderly, and I hope you will be happy with your new mistress. So when my mother came back in the second time, she came back in from Loughrea. So the only connection I can make that she went then to work for a family in Loughrea. So.
Kind of a secret life attached to her there, and then Loughrea years, wasn't there? No.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead, but it just shows the connection.
In March 1950, she was pregnant again, and again back into Tuam.
Yes.
Okay. And
her address being Loughrea at that time, Main Street in Loughrea.
That secret life in Loughrea, back to that again, what she was doing there.
Yeah, I imagine, because I went down with a friend of mine to Loughrea, and we went to see an old man who ran a kind of an antique shop, and he knew quite a bit about the area. So he said at that time, he said there wouldn't have been that many families on Main Street. There would have been a couple of businesses, and they would have been the only people on the Main Street that would have had people in service, and there wouldn't have been that many. He was going to try and sort some more stuff out or do some more research, but I never got back to him. So, yeah.
Okay, her second son, William, and here's where the problems start. We know that the first son is accounted for. Her second son, William Dolan, born in 1950, and he stayed in Tuam for a few months. And in the nun's records, he died in February 1951, and there's no cert
There's no medical certification of death for William. There's no reason for death of William. And there's no death certificate for William.
And the only thing about the dates.
Yeah, well, that came later. But the only thing I have to rely on is that the nuns wrote, in inverted commas, dead. That's all I know.
And only after Bridget died, that was the first time you learned about the existence of those two boys. Mm-hmm. And do you believe that William was adopted, sent illegally out to America?
Well, it's very strange because when I went searching for information, I've been 10 years on this now, and County Council have records. I got records about John from some manager's orders. The archivist had found some stuff for me, but there was nothing at all for William. Just, he disappeared, you know. Yeah, nothing, you know. He's not on the list of the 796. And I had heard, after I brought this story to Alison, I had heard rumours started around the family, but of course, you start to become a bit persona non grata at that stage, breaking the family code of silence, but people know more than they tell. But a family member had been told that my mother had one child, right? Because I notice with a lot of women, even if they have 2 or 3 children, they only say one. It's a lesser sin than 3 or 4 or 5, you know. So, and that the child had been, no, she only did say one, but that the child had been sent to America. That was all that was said. I did ask family members, did they know anything about it? And I was told, oh, well, pets, sometimes things are best left in the past. And another thing I heard through the family member, well, if our mother had wanted her to know, she would have told in the first place. Let that be an end to it.
And you do know that in 1951, in Glasnevin Hospital, she was working, the Bon Secours private hospital, in the laundry for 4.5 years. She spent in there working in the laundry.
Yes, yes.
And then dancing, she met your father, Bill.
Well, I'm assuming it was, well, they were great dancers because I always heard her saying he was a great waltzer and that. So I assumed when she was working in the laundry, at some stage, she must have got time off. They used to have tea dances in the afternoon. I know it was at that time. They would have been 3 to 6 on a Sunday afternoon. And I also met another man, and I have a photograph, and it turns out that his mother and my mother are in the photograph together. I'd taken his mother out of the photograph for the paper. But when we got talking, his mother had been sent up from Besborough, and she was working as a cleaner in that hospital in Glasnevin. Yeah. So she had met somebody as well. So I can assume that's how. But I also wrote to the nuns and I asked them, like, did they pay her or was she? They said they'd no records from that time, which I found absolutely ludicrous because some people are still getting their pension paid on contributions from that time.
So Bridget and Bill got married, and you were the first child of that marriage. Now, Bill, you found out too, was also a resident in Glyn Industrial School.
And also Kilkenny first, he was 10, and then transferred to Glyn. And with his brother.
So both your parents?
Yeah, both my parents.
Were out of industrial or Magdalene homes, yeah.
Background, yeah.
Okay, you were born in 1956.
I'm an only child. I had heard that my mother, she had said that she had lost 2 after me. So basically I'm a middle child because she had 2 before me and 2 after me.
2 after you, yes.
I'm actually an only child, but she had 1, and I heard her saying the master from the Rotunda Hospital had to come up, and I think he was dead at 6 months or something, and not 6 months of age, 6 months pregnant. He had to come and do an emergency on her, and then she lost another one after that. So I was her only living child.
What was she like to you as a mother? You weren't very close to her, were you? And you were very close to your father.
Well, yeah. Being a girl and being daddy's girl, like, you know, and my mother would probably do what mothers do at the time. Yeah. And my father said, leave the child alone. Maybe from his background, leave the child alone, right? Yeah. She was a very good mother. She was very kind. When I was growing up, like the family down in Galway, She actually dressed them all. She knit
Just
for
spotlessly clean, spotlessly clean.
but she also knitted for all the relatives down there, their children. My pram went down there. She knitted, she made clothes for them. She made dresses, everything, and she looked after them very well, despite the fact of what had happened. And there was a letter from my father, and it must have been the first time that she'd been down there, because everyone wrote at that stage. And he said, I hope everything is okay down there, not alluding to anything. And he said, if you're not happy, he said, I'd send you the fare to come back home. So there must have been some kind of reunion at that time. I'm filling in pieces.
So when you were 17, Anna, you went to Hamburg in Germany.
Yes.
You spent 6 months working there.
Yes, I did.
Father was in his 70s and a smoker.
Yes.
Your father died in May 1976.
Yeah.
And a year later, Anna, you told your mother you were pregnant.
Yeah.
And you had no partner at the time.
No.
But your mother was your solid rock behind you. There was no giving out, no anger. She was your rock. She was your support.
I have to tell you the story. Myself and my friend were in the house with my mother. And I said, I have something to tell you. And she said, what? I said, I'm pregnant. And I said, I have to go out. And I left my friend there. I said, what happened? What just happened there? Because we often laugh about it. I left and my friend had stayed out. I don't know what happened. First I heard.
Did your friend know this before? Is this news to her at the time?
Yeah, but she said, I knew nothing about it. You know what I mean? And you'd have to ask Anne. Brat, she said.
1982, you were pregnant again. Your second daughter, Sarah.
Yeah.
And Bridget, your mother, got her second stroke in March 2001 and she died.
Yeah.
Now, that is the beautiful story of your mother's life in that book. My name is Bridget Alison O'Reilly. That's your mother's story. Now can I come to Anna's story? Only after your mother died did you discover that you had two brothers. How did that happen, Anna? How did you find that out?
Well, I had initially gone to Bernardo's to make some inquiries about my father, because I have older cousins and my father's brother's children, and there was some talk that my father was in the industrial homes. So I went to Bernardo's initially to find out about my father.
About your father,
Yeah.
who was in Glyn. Kilkenny and then Glyn, yes.
And my aunt Maura, who was sent...
That's your father's sister.
Yeah. Now, they're from Dublin, remember.
Okay.
But ironically, she was sent to Galway to Loughrea Industrial School from Dublin. They were putting her into a home in Dublin, and that application was withdrawn for some reason. And then she was sent to Loughrea in County Galway, because they had no association with Galway from my father's side. But anyway, I went to Bernardo's anyway, and I wanted to make some inquiries, and I met a beautiful lady there. She was a social worker, and she was in her mid-60s, but an angel. So she said to me, no problem, Anna. She said, I'll look into that for you, she said, and, it should be fairly straightforward. So I told her my father's date of birth, my uncle and my aunt and that. And I just said to her, I remember something when I was small. And I said, I don't know if it's a dream, because I'm an only child. Do only children dream? They have siblings or whatever. But I said, I remember... could be a dream. I remember my mother and her brother in the kitchen, and they were having some kind of a to-do, and I'm only quite small, and my mother's brother turned and said, do you know your mother had two children? And my mother turned and said, get out and play. And of course, going out to play is much more interesting for children than listening to adults, so you were gone and that was all forgotten about. And I said, but it's kind of come back to me recently. And I said, I don't know if I'm imagining it. Or she said to me, Anna, give me your mother's details. She said, and I'll check that up as well. So anyway, she got the paperwork with my father. It was straightforward. The children were brought to the courts. They were sentenced through the courts. They were sentenced to 10 years. Their mother died of tuberculosis, and they were taken away from their father. But when I seen the census that year, the father was sharing a flat with his unmarried sister-in-law, which would have been the wife's sister, probably helping to rear the children, and that wasn't accepted. I'm sure that was the first thing that probably brought the eye on them. And the second thing, the lady in Bernardo said, the judge usually had a list of 10 reasons why they were going to incarcerate the children. And she said basically it was nearly like just, oh yeah, that's the reason. And they were sent off anyway. But should I look into your mother's story? So I gave her my mother's details. And she contacted me Christmas, and she rang, said, "And I have some information for you." She said, "We're closing for the Christmas." She said, "You'd have to wait in January." And I said, "Look, can you not give it to me now?" I said, "Because, you know, you're after kind of getting anxious now, you know." And it was after having a breakdown before, but so I'm getting anxious. So she said, "Well, it's not really." I said, "Look," I said, "I'm a grown woman." I said, "You know, I can't wait in January." I said, "I know you're breaking protocol. Tell me now." So she said, "Anna, your mother did have 2 children. She had 2 boys and Chum." And I was standing in the corner over there. Shock. I mean, I started to cry, and then I rang my daughter, and then I rang my other daughter, and I told them. So that was the start of my...
And you've had plenty of time to think about that since, Anna. But tell me, why do you think your mother didn't tell you? Have you worked that out yet?
Shame, fear. I mean, you were here. I speak to people being through the home. Keep your head down. Go home now. You've committed a sin, and don't tell anyone. And and that's your shame. I mean, also,
but if her daughter, Anna,
Yeah, but I mean, there's still that's.
Which you maybe thought you might have turned against her and judged her,
because I've spoken to so many people. There's a code of silence implemented on the women.
Guilt.
Yeah, and again, there's. I've heard, because I do a lot of research for survivors, and I deal with a lot of survivors. Women have had 2 and 3 children, but they minimise it even down to 1 when they're they may tell their older children, they may be 50, 60 when I had 1 child. No, you didn't, Mum, because I found out after the first encounter that you had 2 or 3. Because, I mean, having a baby outside marriage was mortal sin. And I mean, murdering somebody is a mortal sin. So who the hell wants to be going ahead and murdering 3 people? It's bad enough murdering 1. So you're equating it on that level from a religious point of view, So it was always 1, so.
But you've no resentment against her for not telling you?
No,
have you?
But the only thing I have a sorrow. Because I, as I told the lady in Bernardo's, when I get something between my teeth, I'm like a dog with a bone. And if I had known this sooner, it probably would have accounted for maybe. She was over careful of me, and she was always, maybe she was afraid I was going to go down the same path. And both of us were Virgos, if you're into that. And we were both very strong-minded. And of course, I had this, and my father said, "Leave the child alone." And I was quite wild, right? I kind of stopped going to church when I was 13, and my mother said, "You have to go." And my father said, "Leave the child alone." My father's...
Maybe too, Anna, she's afraid of you...
of me taking the wrong path.
Or if you've been taken from her again.
Yes, I mean, that's if you see the photograph on the book, I mean, she's quite a tight hold on me. And so, I mean, everything she probably done to me...
You're good for baby, Anna, lovely.
But maybe...
That's your mother, yeah.
Maybe, like, it's probably the first child she could keep and hold. You can see the grip.
Yes, the grip, yeah.
I mean, she'd lost 2 already. And then she had me, and then she'd lost 2 after me. So this was the...
miscarriage. She miscarried after you, yes, yeah.
2. The only child that she actually had. And my father was very supportive. He was a very easygoing man. Like, there was an age difference. I think my mother was about 36, 37 when she got married. And he was 52 when I was born. Mm-hmm. But I mean, maybe he worked a lot of angst out of himself, but he was very easygoing and very supportive. Very supportive. My mother could do no wrong, and I could do no wrong, So she'd be always saying, "Get ready, get organised, do this." And he'd say, yeah.
Leave the child alone.
Yeah, no, but if he had to do something, he'd just go and do it.
Anna, you've written a letter in that book to your mother. It's very emotional. Would you like to read it for us?
I would, yeah. Dear Ma, this has been the worst few years of my life. I've had nothing but troubles. I had work and health issues. I had domestic and personal issues. But you want to know what's been the worst of them all? I have family issues. Ma, in 2012, I found out that I had 2 brothers. 2 brothers that I never knew about, and you never told me about. I was an only child, but now I'm a 3rd child. God only knows how that feels. I used to think I was special, enfant, unique, but that too has changed. Ma, why did you never tell me? I know our relationship was strained at the best of times, but this, I've never felt so sad and hurt and lost and betrayed. I could go on. Ma, when I was young, I know that you did your best for me, your very best, but I still grew up to be Anna. I was wild and you worried. The more you gave out, the further we pushed apart until eventually our relationship fractured. I still needed you. I brought you out. I brought you to stay in my home with the kids, but still the tension was always there. We fought like I'm sure most mothers and daughters do, maybe even a little more. But I had no yardstick. Looking back, I know you love me, but you never said it, and now I know why. I have read what your life was like. I have seen and felt your losses. I cannot even begin to understand how damaged you were. But like me, you always showed your tougher self. Did you teach me that? I remember you talked, you smiled, you enjoyed yourself, you were never bitter. And the best thing I admire was your kindness and generosity. I hope that I have some of those traits. I try. You cared for everybody. You never spoke bad of anybody. You always kept your faith. Even now, anybody who knew you only remembers you with fondness. I'm so sorry for what happened to you. I wish I could turn back time and put my arms around you and tell you. I wish when you were alive that I could have done something to right the wrongs you endured. How did you feel being away from your family, ostracised from your village and giving birth to your children alone? Losing them and being alone and unloved. When you met my father, did he bring the joy into your life that was missing? Did he help heal you and you him? Are you with him now? Where are you, Ma? Ma, I sit and I talk to people who were in the home the same time as John and William. I listen to their lives. I listen to what their lives were like. I listen to their stories of how they found their mothers. I try to fill in the gaps. I feel so protective towards them. I cry a lot when nobody sees. Ma, I know you were in heaven and looking down on us, and I'm sure up there you know the true picture of what happened to your children and all the others. Help me find my brothers, Ma. I beg you, send me a sign. Help me, help us all. What is happening here can only be resolved by divine intervention. Send us your love. Ask the other mothers to help. Ask the children to help us find them. Please do something, because there's so much hurt and pain and so many fractured families. I don't know how long more I can go on. I'm so sorry. I love you so much, Anna.
Anna, your soul is coming through in that, and your heart, and are you okay? Was every time you read it, it gets...
It's the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It never goes, yeah.
You know.
Can I move you on now, Anna, to William? You are very sure that William... Are you okay? All
yeah.
right. You are very sure that William is in America. Why can you be so sure about that, Anne?
Well, I'm very sure that William is missing, and the police are very sure that William is missing, because William is a missing person registered with the police since September 2013.
2013, okay.
And John is also a case with the police since 2014, May 2014, because I contend that John did not die of the measles. John died of neglect and malnutrition. Okay. Because given the report and the condition he was in after being born normal and healthy, something was wrong. Yeah. So both those cases were taken by my local police station, and they said they'd have to check with the superintendent, and they came back to me the following week, and I went in and made a formal statement. So those cases have been sent to Chum since 2013 and 2014 respectively. I never went to the commission. I never attended the commission. I was invited because under Section 19 of the Commissions Act, any information given to the commission cannot be used going forward in a criminal case, which they failed to tell people. So I knew that, and I didn't go in. And I said, why would I go in? I'm not a survivor of the home. My family was. And I said, I run the Chum Babies family group. And I said, we have a lot of survivors here waiting over a year to come in and tell their stories. I said, maybe you can facilitate them. So they did. But I said, I'm not coming in. But they did actually go after. And this is the first time I've said this. They went to the Galway County Council, and I had been dealing with the archivist, and I'd been dealing with the solicitor in the Galway County Council on a personal level. And they requested all my documents from the County Council to the Commission, which were private, because I'm a citizen of this state. I'm not dealing with the Commission. I've applied 3 times for an exhumation licence prior to the dig. Once prior to the dig for my brothers. They told me, they asked me, where are they buried? I said, I don't know. I said, well, here's a map freely available in the Galway County Council planning offices, and it shows where the site lies. Now, if you're asking me where are they in that plot, I don't know. I didn't put them in. You'll have to go and ask the nuns who worked for you. So then they said also, if they grant me an exhumation, I said I'd be disturbing other people's remains. So I went and I applied again after the dig, and I said, you know where they are now, so I want my exhumation licence. I said, and you've already disturbed, I said, my brother's possible bodies, so both your arguments are moot. And I still haven't got justice, because anybody in the country can apply for an exhumation licence. So I've applied for it 3 times. I've tried every single avenue. I've gone to the Attorney General in 2013 to exercise our rights under the Coroners Act to instigate a exhumation at Chum. No, wouldn't. She refused. I've also been to the Guards. They have said they're working with the Commission. I said, I'm delighted you're working with the Commission. I said, I, on the other hand, I'm not attending the Commission. I said, I'm looking to you as a citizen of this state for my rights under the laws of the land. I said, under the Guard Act, section 17 and 18, there's no medical certification for any of those children, for my brothers in that grave, or any of those children. I said, and under there, you have to go to the coroner, and you have to inform the coroner that children lie in the district, that there's no medical certificate. They didn't. No, you do it. I wrote the coroner, just ignored me. They told me to write to HICWA. I said, what are you writing to us for? So nothing came of that. So they're sending me around in circles. But I did actually find out that both the cases of the putative father of the 2 boys were referred to the Galway County solicitor to follow up on the putative father, and that never happened. But they were referred to the Galway County solicitor, along with a lot of other women whose names were redacted, but my mother's was left there. So they were never followed up on, because I think they thought the cases were never going to go anywhere. I'm not sure, but that was could have been enacted in the law. So the nuns actually had the names of all the fathers of the children. So ergo follows that somebody knows who the fathers of all these children are. You know? So, and I assume, the one thing about Tuam is that differs from other homes is, and same with St. Patrick's and the Navan Road, both of those were direct provisions. Those 2 homes were run by the County Council, not by the nuns. So the county councils in both cases were responsible for the upkeep, the maintenance, the work, who worked there, what happened. Now the county councils are an organ of this state, and they're liable under the laws of this land. Whatever the nuns done in their own castles that were left to them by rich people who believed it, I'm not going there. But anyway, in Chum. So in Chum, the county council had oversight on the graveyards. They never, the local graveyard in Chum, they never asked nuns, where are you putting these children? Where are you putting them? They're not in the graveyard, because we have oversight and we don't see it. I asked them, what kind of contract did they have with the nuns? Don't know, right? They never kept, it's also illegal under the 1948 Sanitary Services Act to bury somebody in a place that's not a registered graveyard. They never inquired that after. So there's lots of, that's illegal. I don't want to go down that route, but there's an awful lot there as well. But I mean, going back, I digress anyway, but the records. So if the county council owned and ran this place, any records the nuns have belong to the Galway County Council. It's different in other homes where some rich person's after leaving them this house and the nuns are running this independently and they're taking money from the state. But the county council, you're working for me, I own the records. And they still have never done that. And then in 2017, the coroner took jurisdiction of Chum because I got it under freedom of information, and he never acted under the Coroner's Act. So I mean, I could spend days here. I don't want to go down. I want to state my mother's story, but I could go down routes like that. That it's just, a friend of mine said to me, it's like Alice in Wonderland going down the rabbit hole, and you hit a dead end and you start again. And it's, I mean, I even wrote to the United Nations under the enforced disappearance to find out, could they help me? We'd say, will you? And they wrote back and they said, dear Miss Corrigan, we would love to help you. But the Convention of Enforced Disappearance, your country hasn't ratified it, so there's nothing we could do to help you. Now you think about this, they've signed up to it maybe 20 years ago. Yes. So why did they never ratify? Did they know that all these illegal adoptions and all these illegal registrations and all this, I won't say the word, is coming down the line? So they never ratified it because it would give us access to the UN. I mean, all these things come up as you go on your searches, you know. And that's not the human side of it. That's the actual reality side of it. Because, I mean, the work I had to put in to try and push to get this excavation between... There was 5 ministers for youth and children. I was up in the Dáil with different people. And it was just... My solicitor said to me, he said, Anna, he said, done it. He said, but it was done. He said, I never actually thought I'd see the day, you know. But as I say, and even the guards now haven't dealt with my case properly.
You have been very active in all of this and very active with Kathleen Corliss on bringing the Tuam to the...
Yeah.
Right? And therefore getting all the mother and baby homes investigated after Tuam. Keeps you going, Anna. Can I ask you that?
Well, it's personal. That's the first thing. It's the first thing. It's personal. I've got 2 brothers and I've got a mother and I've got a father and an uncle and an aunt who all suffered through these institutions.
You've got a lot to...
I've got it. So it's personal. And then when I look at and deal with survivors, and I'm very good at kind of ferreting out information because that's what I worked at. And that's why I like to help survivors. But when I see the damage, and every person's story, as you said, has
something unique about it.
Every story is unique, but it's all the same. This is a web. And I mean, I said this, Mary Lou, and she came down to visit, Mary Lou MacDonald came down to visit Chum. She was the only other person that came down, other than Ministers of Pone and Simon Coveney came down. They're the only 2. And Mary Lou's, she came down, but she took a room in Galway in the hotel. And I spoke there. When you look at all these institutions, these are a web. This is a machine.
Very intricate web.
This is a machine that ran on the blood, sweat and tears of poor women and children. Poor. I emphasise that. I mean, I'll give you a case in point, and I'm not going to mention the person's name, but we have a group member who started in Tuam, boarded out. I won't go into the horrific details of that. Sent back to an industrial school, sent from there to a mental home, sent from there to a Magdalene laundry, sent from there back to an industrial school, and sent from there back to a mental home, all before they were 15. Now, I mean, don't tell me that these are autonomous.
It's interlinked web.
It's an interlinked webs. Yeah. But as I said, the government dealt with when they were forced to. Mary Rafferty forced them on the industrial homes. Then the Justice for the Magdalenes forced the Magdalenes. Then we forced the mother and baby homes. But the government broke these down into bite-sized pieces, so the good people of Ireland wouldn't choke if they had to swallow them all in one go. And I firmly believe that. Chum was mentioned in the industrial homes. A woman from America contacted me. There's a paragraph on the number of children that were in Chum. So they knew about Chum.
Yeah, they knew about
this is Chum. Back as far as the industrial homes. They weren't investigating Chum, but Chum was actually mentioned. Did you see this, Anna? We went along there and they're investigating the Magdalene homes. The women in the Magdalene homes came from Chum in Galway. And in Cork, they came from Besborough, a lot of the women as well, right? I got paperwork It was dropped in my letterbox one night when I was asleep. And the HSE were involved, the Health Service Executive were involved in the Magdalene Home Inquiry, and they were working to the Magdalene Home Inquiry. And they found a tranche of paperwork on Chum, because they were looking at the entry paths of the women from the Chum Mother and Baby Home into the Galway Magdalene Home, and from Besborough into the Cork Magdalene Home. And the head of the HSE Medical Intelligence looked at the paperwork in relation to Chum. And he wrote in these private, that I have, they're with my solicitor, they're private, but he wrote in these that there was possible interference with birth and death certificates. Now, this is the head of the HSE writing to the head of the Magdalene Inquiry. Senior church officials came to the home in Tuam pre-1950 looking for children to be made available for adoption with or without the consent of the mother. Now, the adoption law came in 1953, so we've no idea of anything that happened before 1953. You know, the number of deaths actually dropped in Tuam after the adoption law came in. All right? Mm-hmm. And he also wrote in this piece of paper that there was possible criminal and illegal activities in Chum related to social workers, doctors and other people. Now, I'm not saying this. He said this, right? Now, he also done something on Besborough along the same paperwork. And yet, they kind of said, well, I have an email. We had a meeting with solicitors and the HSE, redrafted that report. Hopefully they'll be all able to sleep quietly tonight, right? But when they sent the report up, the Magdalene Home Inquiry, they basically said, well, we're not really dealing with mother and baby homes. But they sent up an attachment for Besborough, but nothing about Chum, despite the fact that the two of those reports were in one report. Because I followed Frances Fitzgerald about it, and when she went to become the minister, I said, you were told. They only said about Besborough. I'm at a loss as to why. I have this paperwork. There was a box of 1,000 files found related to adoptions, and a girl highlighted this during the Magdalene Home Inquiry and couldn't actually say whether they were related to the Magdalene Home in Galway or whether they were related to Chum. Right? They kind of disappeared off. And it was also stated that Chum provided adoption services for the Magdalene Home in Galway and for the Magdalene Home in Limerick. Now, I have this paperwork. Come shoot me, kill me, I don't care. I have it, right? It's with my solicitor, I have copies of it. So all this is provable. Where did this go to? Why was this never dealt with when it was known about? So the Magdalene Home Inquiry is over and it's put to bed, and then nothing happens. And then all of a sudden, Catherine Cordis's research, my research, contacting Alison O'Reilly contacting Catherine, and then it comes up, now we deal with it, because we're forced to deal with it. There's no justice. There's the appearance of justice in this country. And they only do things when they're forced to do things. And they're actually, and what's even worse is, all the inquiries they're examining themselves. There's no external examination like they had in Northern Ireland. There's no independent people. We'll go in the room, we'll close the door, you come in and tell us your story, go outside now, and every 2 or 3 years we'll slip a little piece of paper under and we let you know how we're getting on until the final report.
So that book was published in 2018.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed since then, has it?
Well, the only thing is that the excavation has started, but I mean, even regarding the law is not suitable. This law...
It's not fit for purpose.
It was fit for Chum, and it was solely, I believe, hobbled together for Chum, because the statement in it, manifestly inappropriately buried, refers to children lying in a septic tank in Chum. I have tried to use that law for my aunt in the industrial home, and the first thing I was confronted with was she manifestly inappropriately buried. I don't know. I didn't bury her, the nuns buried. Well, then we can't help it. Sorry. This was to make the media an international interest in this whole area of mother and baby homes, Chum being the touch paper, let's say, the tip of the iceberg. And let's make this go away. And then we might be able to, we can deal with the rest ourselves. Just all you people abroad that are in, just go away. And that's what I believe. I mean, this is the backstory. I know it's kind of when I deal with survivors, I mean, they're telling their story. I wasn't in a home. I'm suffering intergenerational, I believe, damage. So I'm trying to write it. But when you're trying to write, you're writing it from a legal point more than my mother would have felt the pain, my brothers would have felt the pain, my father and his siblings would have felt the pain. I feel
pain has rippled down to you.
Oh, it is. But I'm directing it into anger, and it's directed anger. It's constructive anger. I'm going to sort this out. This is not finished yet. I mean, last Friday I got word from the birth information and tracing, and this is the first. Last Friday, so I only heard the man I was dealing with quoted my mother's birth date. And I said, no. I said, that's not my mother's birth date. I said, sorry, I can't really hear you because the phone line was bad. And he repeated. I said, I have my mother's birth cert in front of me. And I said, that's not the date. Well, I don't know if I can give you your information. I'll have to talk to my manager. I've been getting information for the last 10 years. They've discovered the date that I already knew that they'd audited. And now they're deciding whether they'll give me the information or not. I mean, this is 10 years on. I mean, we're supposed to be well past all this.
Where do you go from here, Anna?
I just keep digging. I'm like a fisherman. That's what I used to say to people. I was dealing with a lady who was looking for information. And I said, I cast out the rod. And back in, there might be nothing on it. But I cast it out again. There could be big salmon on it. She actually got a paperwork which was a double A4 sided paper. And that's all she had. By the time we were finished, we had 90 pages of information about everything she'd gone through. So that's for you. And then other people, that's for you. I had random people just asking me, they didn't know if their mother, I'm not an expert, it's not my area, but I use what I know to help people. And one lady, she was on and her mother had a baby and died at 5 months. She didn't know if she was in a home, blah, blah, blah. But I found out she'd moved from the country up to Dublin. I got the birth cert for her. I sent it on to her, and her mother in California, she was delighted. And I said, do you want me to look anymore? No, she said, I need to settle with this now and speak to my brother. But she was happy. So I give you the money for the cert. No, I said, pass it on. Do a good deed for somebody else. Pass it on.
But you are doing a great deed to help people, Anna. You know that. Tell me, before we end, have you a message for the government? What would you like to say to them, Anna?
I think I've said everything I have to say to them, right? But they keep changing. Yeah. They keep changing, right? Well, I want to know now why, got a message there this morning, why Simon Harris, he was in Chum there, I think a day or two ago, and he never went up to the site. Now, that was sent to me by a survivor from Chum. He's our new Taoiseach. But he met the dignitaries and he met lots of people around. Now, it's not a very big, you're not like in Manhattan or New York or Boston. It's Tuam. It's Tuam, it's up the road. But no, didn't take a little trip up there. And that was told to me by a survivor from Chum, and I only heard that this morning. So nothing changes. I mean, but I'm not going away. That's all I have to say to you. I'm not going away. As long as there's breath in my body. But the damage I've seen that you've done, and somebody has to be held accountable, and I'm watching from a personal point of view. I said, this is personal, and I want answers from the police, and I want them to do their job in relation to my brothers, and I want justice for survivors. And I mean, I cannot understand with this bill that's come out that where the compensation, you've left out people who are boarded out, you've left out people who are under 6 months. So I'm in the home for 6 months and a week, and you're in for 5 months and 3.5 weeks. You're not getting. I mean, you've omitted to put in Temple Hill, which was involved in adoptions, because we had members from the mother and baby homes being sent up there and were never returned for the adoption to the mother and baby home. They were adopted from Temple Hill, but yet Temple Hill acted as a hospital. There's a court case going through about it now. There's also St. Philomena's that nobody has heard about. St. Philomena's was a holding station for St. Patrick's on the Navan Road. One of our members happened to have connections with Chum, had family members in it, but she also has connections with St. Patrick's. And Temple Hill or sorry, not Temple, St. Philomena's was a holding station. So the children were sent out there, and she was there for 3 years. And we don't know whether that's going to be covered or not, because you know, it's not St. Patrick's, it's just a holding station. I said, apply for it, and let's see all you can do is apply, and let's see what comes back, and then we can take it further. And I have to thank Alison O'Reilly. She has been one of the staunch. I have no faith or trust in media or governments or anything, right? I'm a total cynic. But she has been there and always been there, and she's never went away. When she was with the Mail, she tried her damnedest to get a story in every week. She wrote the book, and I mean, it was written in record time. I said it's going to be the first of many, and I hope everyone can write their own story. And she still hasn't gone away. She's still here. And that's one thing, she's a true believer. Yeah. And the same with Catherine doing her part. It was like a little triangle, and we're so glad that those baby sentient beings have been given a voice. And again, there's 796 there, but I want a voice for all the children that are lost. The commission identified 9,000. That's what they've identified. That doesn't mean it's a real figure, because they only looked into 14 homes and the industrial homes, because I took a trip down to Kilkenny and I seen their graveyard down there where the children are.
St. Joseph's in Kilkenny.
Yeah, yes. Where they only done it up after the tribunal, and the tribunal. And I've been to looking for my aunt in Loughrea, who died at 13 years of age. Went into what was the old industrial home. It's a beautiful graveyard in here on the side, and I was led to believe that it was the children's graveyard. It goes back to 1840. Beautiful new black marble headstones. It's for the nuns. And we did go in to see the nuns, and I asked the nun, I said, would you have any idea where the children are? No idea. They said, I didn't work in the home, so I do have to acknowledge that. But have you any idea where the children are? No. I said, I'm looking for my aunt, Tortil. No idea.
Anna, we've got to keep going. We can't just stop, because it comes to, the story comes out, and then it peters out, and then it dies. Oh, yeah. Then it comes out again, and you're back to square one again. You got to start all over again. So we got to keep the whole momentum going, haven't we?
Oh, it has to keep going, because
stories have to come out.
Everyone's story needs to be told, because every story is unique. Everyone's, and the trauma is, it's devastating, you know.
And it goes on from generation
to generation, you know.
To generation.
You know.
It's horrific, Anna.
But, you know, the damaged lives, the broken lives, and you look at them.
Destroyed lives.
Destroyed. There's, there was a great song was out, and it was by Sinead O'Connor, Damien Dempsey, and the guy who's played the mouth organ. But it's called Woe to the Holy Vow. And Sinead had been in the Magdalene homes. Damien Dempsey's grandfather had been in the industrial home, and the other guy, I can't remember, he'd been in Dangan. And you want to watch this 3-minute song, and it would really, you know, you have a man sitting outside the church drinking wine, damaged, she wants to go in and light a candle. You see a girl, she's opening her drawer in the bedroom, and she's taking out her pills and her bottle of vodka, you know.
That's where it all ends up, yeah.
It's the damage, and then it becomes intergenerational, and, you know, what happens then is it can spread out. I've met some very strong people who managed to, you know,
get it together. The inability even to form relationships, Anna, that's another big part of it too, and to trust people and just get on with everyday life.
I've met one or two now. I mean, I've met one or two that, I mean, I'm absolutely amazed. They say, Anna, you're great. I said, no, I'm not great. I said, I never walked a day in your shoes. I'm good at writing letters. I'm good at digging, and I'm good at being a general pain in the ass, right? But I said, if there's any heroes, and it's you walked in those shoes. I never walked in your shoes for a day. You survived this. You came out, and you're still here, and you're telling your story. I said, I don't know how I would have been able to cope with that. Would I have been able to cope? I don't know. I mean, I'm good at what I do, but could I cope with it? I mean, I'd have my doubts, because, I mean, I'm hearing such horror stories, so.
You're amazing, Anna, to keep going the way you're going.
Well, you're amazing as well, and we're very grateful.
I can only get out what you people tell me.
Yeah, but we're very grateful because I've had people come from universities doing PhDs and they're doing doctorate. And I said, I should give you anything I have on copies of it. I said, just promise me one thing. Never let this period in Irish history be forgotten. And if you have children, or if you don't have children, you have nieces and nephews, you have sisters, brothers, just tell and keep telling and telling, because it was a part of Irish history that was like the Civil War here. I mean, I remember going to school and you learned about 1916, then we moved on a little bit. Then all of a sudden we jumped and the Civil War was missed out. It's this period. And I mean, these things, history can often repeat itself. So we have to be very careful.
Does, yeah. Vicious cycle, and somebody breaks the cycle.
I mean, we've had 2 world wars in 100 years and we could be looking at, more trouble now. So you do have to understand that the only way is to know about it. And a lot of the freedoms we say young people take for granted nowadays, they don't really have any cognizance. It's not their fault about what they went through. But when they do hear, they're kind of, what? And I think it's very important that they actually know these things.
Yes, of course. Because history is written by the winners.
Yes.
That's the way it is. Yeah. Anna, thank you very, very much for giving us your story. And we wish you all the best.
And I do.
And what you want to happen, we hope happens for you.
And anyone who wants to follow Chum Babies Family Group, that's on Facebook. And we're also on Twitter. And it's at TuamBabiesFami1. So it's Chum Babies Family 1 on Twitter. And anyone who needs, if I can be of any help, feel free to contact me and I'll get back to you and we can link up. And and we have 14 family members in the Pit and Chum, so that's I think we're
14
group, yeah. So maybe not. They could have been illegally adopted, but we see there's always the query, and it's just I'm just going to follow on this because they don't know when they dig up Chum are they going to find all the remains. So it still leaves a question that has been begged by 2 or 3 members, including myself. Are the children actually dead? Were their death certs falsified? Fergus Finlay from Bernardo's, he came out in 2018, done an interview with Alison in the newspaper, and he's 30 years in Bernardo's, and he said he knows from his work there that death certs were falsified to broker adoptions. Now, he didn't say in relation to Chum, but he knew it, and he stated in the newspaper, so I'm not telling tales out of school. So there's more, and then the guy from the HSE stating that there was possible interference with birth and death certificates in Chum. Can we be assured that our families are actually dead, even though they have a certificate? Or look at the case of William, what happened to him? And I'm sure there's more than one William out there. So
we've only scratched the surface, haven't we, Anna? Tip of the iceberg. Mm-hmm.
And I light a candle. I have it lit this morning for people because we need the energy, to keep going.
Get the energy out, get the light out there, yes. Okay. Well, thank you all for watching, and until we meet again, namaste.